Welcome, everyone, to Contractors Conversation interview with an executive coach and a compliance specialist. And here is Miss Cree. Oh, okay. I didn't turn off my notifications. Happy Friday, everyone. Oh my God, it's been a hectic week.
It has.
Oh my God. I don't know about anybody else, but I am exhausted. This time change is killing me, but that's all right. We're professionals and we're going to push on.
Yes.
So, we have with us today Miss Cree Scott.
Yep.
She is the CEO and founder of Serenity Sci Consulting. I hope I
Yes.
said that correctly.
That is right. And I'm going to update my name, my title, so you can see it.
So tell us a little about who you are, who you serve, and how you serve your community.
Yeah. So I am a psychologist by trade, and I was practicing as a clinical psychologist for several years and then switched over into consulting and focused primarily on leadership development. And I found that I really enjoyed it. So I was in professional services for about 12 years before going out on my own earlier this year. And right now, my focus is on leadership development and coaching. And so my leadership development uh, process is more around 9 courses that I have developed. And they fall within the areas of DE&I, so diversity, equity, inclusion, well-being, so employee well-being, and human-centered leadership. So all those things around psychological safety, around emotional intelligence and agility in the workplace, authentic leadership, anything you can kind of think of to kind of put the person first in terms of leadership is where I focus. And in terms of coaching, I tend to focus more on executive coaching, but I also do some well-being coaching because I find that people are burned out and they're ready to just kind of figure out what's next for them. So I focus there as well. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here and talk through this.
I think this is pertinent. We're coming off of a world changing event, and I don't want to sound melodramatic or overdramatic, but I think our generation has experienced something that shifted the dynamic.
Yeah,
And those in the entrepreneurial space really had to learn to pivot on the dime.
right.
And
Yeah,
in doing that, it was like go with the flow or get lost. And that was employees, employers, and everybody else.
yeah,
And we didn't take enough time to kind of decompress.
right. Exactly.
So now that we're in this lull before the next storm, because there's another storm coming if you want to listen to the analysts,
Sure.
we really need to have that next conversation, whereas where you're coming in.
Yeah,
The leadership development, the employee centric conversations.
yeah.
And I love that you're the go to person.
Yes,
And,
I love that too. I love the go-to.
and I think contractors don't think about this.
Yeah.
We're so busy trying to go for the win, we forget after you get the win, it's the people behind us that's performing the
Yes.
work that
Yes.
needs to make sure we maintain the win.
Yeah, and I think that it's everything that you're saying just resonates highly with me because I think about, coming off of COVID and there are a lot of layoffs. There are a lot of people who were a part of the Great Resignation, and the people who were left behind during that time in the workplace are almost, suffering. And so I think that's where the term quiet quitting came from in the first place, because you have these organizations that are just like, okay, we lost a lot of people, but they're having some really big challenges in terms of hiring and rehiring and staffing these projects. And so what you find is that the people who are left behind, they're still kind of moving at the same pace they were when they had, twice as many people on their team and expected to still hit their numbers and make the same results. And I think they're finally saying, like, wait a minute, no, we're not doing this anymore. And so you hear the term quiet quitting, which has nothing to do with quitting. Really what they're quitting is, going above and beyond when there's no, positive reinforcements for them to do so. And then I also, talk, as I hear you saying, like, thinking about how to keep your employees engaged and loyal and wanting to stay with you. Those are all the things of human centric leadership that needs to happen, because you can't do the old way of leadership where you used to be like, oh, performance and results and output and all the things about numbers, and not ask people how they're doing. What can I do for your career development? How can I make sure you're happy? And what can I be doing to ensure that you have all the tools and resources necessary to thrive in this workplace? That's the conversation that these leaders need to be having now.
Because it's hard to maintain a compliant organization when you have a workforce that is quitting. They're
Exactly.
quitting on you, they're quitting on themselves. They've
Exactly.
just quit.
Yeah, they're burned out. They're tired. And when you're burned out, you don't have the cognitive skill set to really stick with things. You're just tired, and really for burnout, all you can do is remove yourself from the situation for a while and return when you're in a better place. That's really what burnout is. It's just like, I can't do this anymore. I don't have the energy. I don't feel like this is going to get better, so let me just sit down and do something different, which is take better care of myself and worry about me.
So, how can we as an organization get our employees to re-engage? Okay, they've quit mentally, but we don't want them to quit physically.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really around like taking some of those steps that I talk about in many of my courses. And it's around setting up an environment in which people feel like they can come and talk to you, setting up an environment in which you become that leader in which people really want to work for. And so that goes back to the ideals of psychological safety, which is the trust, the honesty, the really showing up. That goes back to emotional intelligence, making sure that you understand yourself and your own emotions and how you're showing up for other people, but also being able to understand other people's emotions and react in a positive way that's going to be impactful and valuable for them. And so when you marry those two things together and you create a space in which, now my employees feel like that I am here for them, then this is going to be less likely for them to want to physically quit, because now they're just like, oh, well, I really actually enjoy the work that I do when it's not like this. And maybe this too shall pass, right? And then, as we all know, people quit their managers, they don't quit their jobs. And so, if you can be a better manager, then you will likely have more engaged employees.
I love that you said that because I never forget a conversation I had when I was in corporate, and he was a newly named manager, and he was just like, managers are perfect and is always the employee. And I told him, I said, don't forget the conversation we had when you were the employee and we
Right.
were talking about the manager. I
Yes.
said, don't forget, I don't know what it is about the psyche that changes. And we all understand every employee isn't a saint and every manager isn't the villain.
Right.
However, that dynamic, you can't forget. You
Right.
can't forget what it was like to be the employee working in the dark when
Right.
you become management.
Yep.
You can't forget that your employee has to buy in. And
Yeah.
and that even goes up when you're in the middle and your manager is telling you something and you don't believe it, but you now have to sell it below you.
Yes, all that. Yes. And I say this too. It's like a lot of times, what took you to be a get to manager or to be a people manager, those skill sets that you got to be there are not the same skill sets that you need to stay there. Right. So usually
Yes.
people are they're promoted based on being great individual contributors. And that skill set of individual contributing is great. And you're going to go far with that as long as you continue to do that. But when you add that on top of being able to manage people, that's a different skill set most of the time. And so I think people sometimes confuse the fact that, yeah, you might be a rainmaker, you might be bringing in all the money, but if nobody likes you, none of that really matters in the long run. You're going to find yourself lonely on an island all by yourself. So, yeah, it's so important to remember like what it's like to be that employee for sure, because you need a different skill set to manage people than you do to bring in money.
Now, I want to continue this conversation, but I want to transition it a little bit after the next segment. So I want
Yeah,
to kind of pause right here
yeah,
and just kind of transition a little bit.
yes. That sounds good to me.
Okay.
So when you're talking about, one of the things that I was thinking about as I was talking about my company is the things that you do in your company. So I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about your company so that we can get an idea of that and we can kind of come back around to how we might be thinking about things in the same way. So tell me a little bit about your company, LT&A Consulting.
Well, I'm Luciana Turner of the LT&A Consulting Group. I help businesses obtain, retain, and maintain government contracts. I know that sounds like, wow, I just want a contract, but there's just so much more.
Mm-hmm.
There's that back end that people don't want to talk about. I like to think of it as I like to complete the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's more to it than winning a contract. Can you perform? Can you bill? Can you do you know what is involved in the record keeping?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the rules of engagement are? It's that aspect of it. It's the holistic approach to what it takes to become a government contractor and then scale and grow from there.
Yeah.
That's what I do with my clients. It's that power partnering with
Mm,
the
I like that.
government and with the prime and with the industry in and of itself.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit more about like when you think about helping your clients to obtain those government contracts, what does that look like for you?
Obtaining a contract is kind of multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
Drafting the response, people just want to say, use industry jargon.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like reading a college brochure with some people. No, I don't want to sound like I'm reading a college brochure. I want you to tell me how you answer mail
Right.
specifically. I want to get a feel for what you bring to the table while answering the RFP.
Right.
And that's what's missing. I want that flavor of you. Give me a little bit of vanilla pumpkin spice in that response.
I love it. Vanilla pumpkin spice. I haven't heard that when you talk about government contracts.
Well,
You know,
that's what
it,
we want to see.
it's true though. And when I started in consulting, I started on the government side. So that's primarily where my background was when I first started. And so tell us a little bit about the difference between commercial or industry contracts and government contracts for people who are not in the know.
Well, the government is an entity that says, I don't want to do it. I don't have the capability of doing it, or I have the needs and the capability and I just don't want to do it. So you don't have to convince the government, which is what I love about government contracting. We don't have to do no convincing. The
Right.
only thing you have to do is convince them that you're the one for the job.
Sure. Yep.
So that's that capacity and capability. I'm sorry, it's that capability. You have
Mm-hmm.
to demonstrate capability.
Mm-hmm.
Where a lot of the small business entities go wrong, it's capacity.
Mm.
They're so busy hanging their hats on certifications and these, I like to call it whipped cream fillings, so they don't work on their capacity. You want $1 million contract and you have beer bottle credit,
Mm,
but you think this certification is going to cover that. So
mm-hmm.
you win a $150,000 contract and you can't perform.
So, how do you come in and help them get to where they need to be in order to perform? Because that's a big deal, right? Like what you're saying is what most people haven't quite figured out, right? And so, how do you come in and help them get there?
I come in, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't like what I have to say because I complete the conversation. So
Yeah,
while we're working on those nice pumpkin spice responses, we're going to get that back in together. We're going
yeah,
to get compliant back there. If we're looking at your corporate finances. And if you cannot sustain $1 million contract,
hmm,
I'm now I'm crazy. We're gonna jump off the cliff. But if your parachute can't sustain that jump, I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna pick a shorter cliff to jump off of
right,
while we get that back in together.
yeah,
I'm gonna have those conversations with you. I'm not like a lot of my partners in the industry that's not having those conversations. I bring my audit experience because I was a compliance auditor when I was in corporate. So the DCA interface. I also bid on contracts.
hmm,
So I know what it is to win a contract and then have to hire the team and everything. I'm in the trenches with you. So I
right,
can tell you this is what it takes to perform on that contract. So I know I'm not just pulling it out of the thin air or the atmosphere.
right.
I'm with you. I'm there. We're partners. Let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love all of that. So you also talk about helping them to retain it. So they have it, and now there's this whole thing about like sustaining the contracts as they get them. And one of the things that I do remember about government is that the government has its own little set of regulations and things that you have to follow, and it's really easy to mess it up. So I guess my question to you is, how do you keep people in line and make sure that they're not mucking it up?
Respect the industry by learning the rules.
Yeah.
As we build that back in, we're going to build it in with the rules in play.
Yeah.
I am going to teach that old proverb, teach a man how to fish.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
When I teach you how to fish, I'm going to teach you how the rod and the reel is built.
Mm-hmm.
And then while you fishing, because after a while, you're not going to need me to help you cast the rod, but
Mm-hmm.
you will need me to let you know that in seasons, which seasons that you can fish in this pond. I keep you up to date on the rules and the regulations.
Awesome.
Right? I let you know, hey, those rules have changed. There's
Yes.
there's that compliance aspect, that unsexy thing people don't want to talk about.
Right.
Those taxes that nobody wants to file that will get you incapable of bidding, file.
Mm, mm. Yep.
Those debarments, because the new debarment rules say they debar the individual, not just the company. So
Wow.
play those stupid games if you want to. You will not be able to prop up a new company. The
Right.
rules have changed. I do
Yeah.
the education piece as well. And not only will I educate you, I'll educate your team because you're responsible for what your team does. That's what that fine print on them documents say that you don't want to read.
It's a lot of, they do put out a lot of documents.
You know that
Well, we have
200
leadership,
page
right?
RFP that you don't want to read. It says it in there. You're responsible.
That's right. Well, and people are not reading that 200-page document. That's the thing. So, if someone is interested in getting to government contracting as a business, what is some advice that you might give them?
Oh my God. I would actually tell them, get your mind right. I'm actually working on a journal workbook. The
Hmm.
365 contractor is what I'm calling it.
Oh, nice.
I'm
Tell us
working
about.
on um, the 365 contractor is a step by step. Within a year, you'll be a government contractor. I would even go as far as to say at the end of the year, you'll have one, if not two contracts.
Okay.
And it's a step by step, bing, bang, boom. This is what you need to do to prop up a company. It's geared towards what I would like to call parallelpreneurs. So
Okay.
if
What?
you're kind of like still in corporate and you're trying to make that transition,
Okay.
I'm also scaling it and creating another version of it for those who have a business but they want to branch off into contracting.
Okay.
But
Like
so
me.
yes, like you. And the first thing I thought about, because I go back and I listen to some conversation, I sit in these like information session the government hosts, and time again, I come back to the same thing. Get your mind right. That mindset. If
When
your
you say
mindset is in
mind
there,
ready, when you say get your mindset ready, what does that look like?
a lot of people fail and stumble because they're thinking, not even as an employee, they're thinking like Joe Schmo on the street.
Okay.
I need you to think as an executive.
Mm.
And which is where we're gonna do another segue shift in the conversation, because I want to talk about, we held a conversation where you said you do emerging executive coaching.
Yes.
And
Yep.
this is what made me think about that.
Mm-hmm.
And idea I had that I had about around this conversation.
Okay.
A lot of people say, I'm gonna be a government contractor, I'm gonna start a business, and their
Mm-hmm.
mindset is mom and pop on the street.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't elevate their mindset to that of an executive running a company.
Yeah.
They don't even run their company like an employee. They run their company like I'm running a household.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there has to be an elevation of the mind. For our listening audience who are Christians, is that renewal of the mind. For those
Mm-hmm.
who are universalists, it's that transition. However you land,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a regeneration and a new version of you for this new place that you're going.
Right.
So that means there has to be an executive mind to make executive decisions, which
Right.
falls into what you were talking about, becoming a new emerging
Yeah.
executive.
Yeah, no, and I do agree with you. Sometimes it is, and I shouldn't say sometimes, most of the time it is our mindset that holds us back. And so I always, I did not coin this phrase. This is not mine, but I do 100% believe in it. When you change your mind, you can change your world, right? You have to change your lens. If you keep on the same pair of glasses and look at things the same way all the time without flipping things on its back or looking upside down or taking a different perspective or just doing nothing and taking a seat and being silent, you're going to get the same results. And that is the definition of insanity. And that's not what you want to do.
You know, I never forget, there was an older gentleman. He was a friend of my father's. He was a minister, but it's still appropriate to this. He
Mm-hmm.
said, if you are the same person at 20 that you were
Mm-hmm.
at 15, you wasted 5 years.
You sure did.
If you're the same person at 30 that you was at 20, you've wasted 30 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you're the same person at 40 that you was at 30, you have wasted 40 years. And
Yeah.
I was like, your math is off, but I get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was talking about the cumulative growth.
Cumulative growth. Yeah.
I'm like, well, shouldn't there just be a difference between 30 and 40? No, because the experience doesn't drop. It's the cumulative growth.
Yes.
Because somewhere a light bulb should go off and say, wait a minute, what I experienced at 20, that lesson applies. Oh, I get it now. All
Right.
that experience didn't go away. It should have just taught me something I can apply now here.
Yeah.
It's that cumulative growth.
I love that. And it's so true, right? Like I mean, that's what God put us here for. And for those who don't believe in God, that's what the universe put us here for, right? Is to grow. That's the one thing we have in common. For the majority of us, we are always growing, mostly physically. And that's something that you should be thinking about mentally, spiritually, emotionally. It shouldn't just stop at the physical growth. You
Mhm.
should be growing in other ways. You should be a lifelong learner, and you should be developing skill sets and knowledge and information and using that to your advantage as you get older. And that is the I to me, I feel like those are the most successful people that can do that.
And you can tell an organization whose leadership stopped growing because the
Mm,
organization stagnates.
yes, I
And
agree.
those are the organizations full of quiet quitters.
Right. Well, quiet quitters and just the end of and hard, I just call them hard headed. Like versus people who are just really set in their ways. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's really like how Blockbuster went under, right? Like they
Yeah.
saw Netflix coming. They saw it and they were just like, we're still going to just sell these videos, But if there would have been somebody there that would have said, like, I think that's changing. Blockbuster could have been the Netflix that is today. They just needed to shift, and sometimes it's hard to shift. And so I'm not saying that I have it all figured out and move as fast and in a more in the most agile way as I should be all the time. But I do feel like I am more willing to take those small calculated risks when I see that there is something out there that might be better than what I'm doing, because I am a lifelong learner and I love it.
Wow. This was just an awesome, amazing conversation that we had today. And I am quite sure that the conversation will continue in the
Yes, I can't
future.
wait. Okay, but one thing you have to tell me before we go though is, when is this 365 book coming out so that I can get one? Because I need it in my life, and I'm sure the viewers want it too if they're thinking about doing something like this.
Well, the pre sale will launch Monday.
Woo!
So, pre sale going out Monday. The actual product will be out in time for the first of the year.
Okay.
Everybody who buys during the pre sale will get access to a masterclass.
All right. Now, where can we find it? Where do we just go into your website, and if so, what is that?
Their website is 365 Contractor.
All right. Contractor or contracting?
Contractor.
Okay, contractor. Perfect.
So
Dot com.
365contractor.com is where you will be able to do the pre-orders. And please put in your right information. I don't know why people in 2022 put in bogus information and then want to get mad when they don't get their stuff.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
It's funny and it's sad. I didn't get my stuff. Well, you fat fingered your address and we couldn't reach you because you gave us a fake phone number. So
Well, that's the things that we used to do back in the day when, a guy would ask us for our telephone number and give us a fake number when they didn't have cell phones, right?
yeah, we're a business. We're not gonna spam you. We're real business. We're not gonna spam you. We're not gonna give you out. We're not gonna call you for a date.
That's
No,
what they're having trauma from the past. That's all.
you'd be surprised, but that goes back to that elevation of the mind.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But to me, I'm just like, if you really do want something, then yes, you do need to give the right information or have a PO box or something if you're really concerned, right? So.
Yes, yeah.
And one thing that I do have is a Google phone number that is free. So if you're worried about someone calling you, just get a Google phone number for free and have it forwarded to your phone. So that way and you can track things accordingly.
There you go. Business tip today.
Business tip of the day.
So, so yeah, so the 365 pre-sales go live Monday. We'll be ready first of the year, and how to register for the masterclass will all be on the sales page once it goes live on Monday morning. So
I love that. It has been so awesome talking to you and having this session with you. I'm glad I got to learn more about your business and the fact that you're going to have something coming out pretty soon that I can use as well. So thank you for that.
it has been an awesome session, and I would love to collaborate with you in the future. I'm thinking of doing a women's and contracting event. I would love for you to come speak at it. So we're going to have to put our calendars together and get that out into the atmosphere and get that.
We're doing it. Let's just call it. Let's just name it right now. We're doing that, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah. So we don't want to bore the people, but we're going to put that out there as well. So
that's right.
Oops. So with that, that's
I'll
close. Huh? So how can people reach you? They want to contact you.
Yes, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at www.serenityscihealth.com, and that's PSY, serenityscihealth.com. And if you want to reach me by phone, I have a Google Voice number, so I screen all my calls. It's 678-439-1395. So you can call me if you want, but it's going to be screened, and you have to tell me what you want.
I love it. Direct and to the point. You can reach LT&A Consulting Group at 980-206-8112. You can drop an email at contact@ltaconsultinggroup.com. So the recordings will be up on probably till the end of next week, when I'll take it down. The replay is always available on our YouTube page, channel. LTA Consulting Group is our YouTube channel. And we'll sign off for today. And our podcast is Contractors Conversation, which this conversation will go live on there come Tuesday. So
yay!
It's been amazing. And I'll contact you later. Have an amazing weekend.
You too.
And as I always say, everybody, a stressed mind can't create. So take the weekend, decompress, spend time with your family and your friends, and hit the ground running Monday morning.
Yes, I love that. Yes, let's do it.
Have an amazing weekend, everyone.
Yes. Bye,